Hi there, I'm Barbara Turley and you're watching another episode of Feminine Wealth TV, the show that uncovers the diamond tips on creating truly conscious wealth from change makers, world shakers and wealth creators. Today I'm joined on the show by a total game changer. She has taken the media industry by storm. She is the former editor of Australia's Women's Weekly. She is the former publisher of 8 different magazines, and now she is the founder and publisher of the multimedia platform called The Carousel. Welcome to the show, Robyn Foyster.
Thank you. Hi, it's lovely to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining me on the show. So tell us a little bit about The Carousel. What is The Carousel and why should we be so excited?
Yeah, well, The Carousel is it's a website that's across multiple pillars, and they're including fashion, health, beauty, home, bridal, and food, and it's very video-rich content. So we feature a lot of short, snackable, shareable content pieces that's optimised for the mobile phone, the iPad, and for the website. Yeah, and a lot of it's e-commerce enabled. So it's something totally new, but it's really where media is changing and evolving.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, just for someone like me who doesn't really get the whole digital magazine sort of space. How is it different from the traditional magazine or the traditional thing that the industry's been doing for so long?
Well, the difference is this company's been built from the ground up, thinking with nothing else in mind other than digital, and
so no print magazine for this. There's no.
No,
print
that's
version?
right.
No,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
But interesting. Having said that, there are digital models out there which have gone the other way around, from not just from the traditional way, which is magazines, and then that magazines have then had a digital element to their multi-platform. Yeah. But an example would be Net-a-Porter. And Net-a-Porter recently, it started as a complete digital brand. It's an e-commerce-led brand, shopping site, and now it has its own magazine. So it's done the reverse.
Oh, it's built the kind of following first online, which of course is probably, well, maybe not cheaper, but it's like a different, because it's quite expensive to produce a magazine.
That's right.
Print a magazine.
Yeah, that's right.
Not everyone can do that.
Yeah, that's right. It's and so it's got the brand already. A mass amount of followers, and everything that's in that magazine that you can buy, and that's appealing.
Absolutely. So tell me, so you started out your career, you were always a writer, you were always in this sort of space.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how do you get to the point where you come through the magazine industry, you were a freelance writer before, and then you wake up one day and you decide, I'm going to go out and change the industry and change how things are done, because you're a bit of a game changer, right? So talk to me about how the start and how this all happened.
Yeah, I started off as a journalist and a writer, and then you sort of work your way up to, in my case, to becoming an editor, and then I became a publisher. Yeah. And as a publisher of a magazine business, you're actually running it like the CEO or managing director would run a business, and the magazine is the business. And when I left the Bauer, which is the company where I was working, I was looking after all the Hearst titles, which is Harper's Bazaar and Cosmo and Madison and Grazia and Woman's Day. So I was looking after multiple magazines, and I thought to myself, I wanted to set up something on my own, which was just about where the future was going, which was clearly digital, and there's no denying that there's enormous fall in the number of people buying magazines, and there's an absolute incredible rise in the number of people who are looking at devices like their mobile phones and getting their information and entertainment and being informed through websites such as The Carousel.
Yeah, and I like the way you said as well, you sort of produce it in bite size, because everything's getting fast out there.
That's right.
And people want like quick sound bites of things. So are you finding that that's sort of a trend?
That's right. Yeah. So we don't do much that's long form. We tend to focus everything's 2 to 3 minutes, and we do a multitude of different types of content, including we do the how-tos across the different pillars. So how to bake a cake to how to have a smoky eye, and we have under the umbrella of The Carousel is a great roster of talented experts in their fields, and it's really a one-stop shop for experts across health, beauty, fashion.
Yeah. How many writers and contributors and editors do you have on board?
About 30 editors across the different areas, and we have guest editors as well. So recently we had Bill Granger the cook as a guest editor.
Yeah.
So we ran a profile on him and various recipes and tips from him. And similarly in fashion, we've had various designers who've been our guest editor for the month. And so, like the carousel, the name suggests, it revolves and moves, and there's constant updates of new content. But the snackable element's really key to what the carousel is about.
You know, what I love about that, and I was thinking about the name, the carousel, and this idea of this revolving content and things changing very quickly, it reminded me of the Zara business model. And the reason they were so successful is because they changed the stock every week.
So,
like, literally, women would be drawn back into the shop knowing that, like, wanting to see what was new and that there was more. So that's kind of the same...
Yeah. That's right. The founder had a very quick way of turning the clothes from the catwalk straight onto something that you could buy at an affordable price, and it changed all the time. And again, we're uploading new content absolutely all the time, and that's key. But the name, the carousel, is a bit of a blend of the old and the new, because everyone thinks about the carousel and they think of something magical that they had when they went on a carousel when they were a child at a fun park or whatever it was. So it's got that nostalgic side to it, but actually a carousel nowadays is, if you look at an app or one of the a website like ours on the phone, it is a carousel that revolves. So it's referred to as a carousel. It's a moving carousel.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. So that's
so you can slide it up or slide it down. If you go on the Huffington Post, you're looking at news and content across different platforms, but they're carousels. Yeah.
On the Huffington Post, Arianna Huffington, was she an inspiration for you?
Totally.
Yeah. She's coming to Sydney soon.
Yes, very excited about that. No, she's totally an inspiration.
Yeah.
And what was amazing about her, that we all had to sit up and look at, was the fact was she had a voice that became a voice that with her view that was spread worldwide. But she was actually Arianna Huffington from the Washington Post, and she wrote for the Washington Post. And then what happened was that she wrote this blog, and then she took the blog and she just put it up on the internet. And it shows, it's like almost her story tells you the story of the internet and the growth of the digital new age, if you like. Because she now has got a brand, which is her name, it's her brand, is as big as the Washington Post.
Absolutely.
And I dare say a lot more influential. And who would have thought?
Yeah, I know. And she's also not American, so she wasn't American born. She wasn't brought up with
she's also a woman.
She's a woman as well.
It's great, because
a
woman has been so successful and built a brand on her own, right. And
so did you see that? I mean, because she only started that in like 2007 or something. It's hard to believe it's not that long ago.
That's right. Yeah.
So did you sort of see that and think, wow, I'm going to do that? Is that where the genesis of this idea came from?
To be honest, I just saw that the whole world was changing, and examples like her, examples like Netta Porter, examples where traditional models were just thrown upside down, because these new companies that were emerging were growing at an enormous speed, and it's just all about getting the right content that's engaging. And
the old industries can't keep up, because actually it's happening in every industry.
Worldwide.
It's financial industry, there's everywhere the game-changing stuff is happening with technology.
The other thing that's interesting about that change is that is the way businesses react to other businesses. So like in magazines, when you're the editor of one of the biggest magazines here in Australia, you're very competitive with your competitive set. There's not much caring and sharing that goes on in that world.
Cutthroat.
It's very cutthroat, and there's money at stake, and you don't have sharing of ideas and editors that are best friends, and necessarily they can be friends behind the scenes, but there's the competitive side to it that's the case. But with the websites and women in media, and women who are publishers of new websites, and there's a lot of fantastic women emerging, there's actually a much more sharing culture, because actually your competition is not just Australian competition.
It's everywhere.
It's worldwide. And so, well, who's your competitor?
Who are you competing?
That's right.
And actually, I love that because I've been talking a lot recently about this whole... there's a shift happening globally in that the world has been very masculine energy focused, which is competition, striving and winning. They're all those masculine sort of traits. And there is a rise of the feminine now in every industry. And it's this whole thing of saying, well, maybe if we create and collaborate and have community and...
It's all about partnerships, collaboration.
We can actually win more if we bring everything together. And it's that...
And I can give you a great example of that. I met a woman, an extraordinary woman just recently called Karen Lawson, and her she is the CEO of Korea One. Okay. And we're doing a partnership with her. And we're giving content to her, and that's great for us because they've got 900,000 unique browsers, a month. And we've got 145 and growing. But we can work together, and there's stuff that we could bring to them as well. So it's collaboration. It's collaboration, and that's what I'm seeing, and that's actually a lovely...
It's less stressful as well. It's not this kind of angst around tightness and...
That's right.
Well, it's an abundant mentality, I guess,
And the way I see the carousel is basically we're, hosting a number of editors who are brands within themselves. Like Lindy Milan, who's our food editor, is a massive brand. She won an Order of Australia. She was my food editor at the Australian Woman's Weekly. She's just done a baking series on Foxtel. She's a fantastic woman and a brand in her own right. And Lise Strawn, who I've just signed on and manage, she has a company, and it's an extraordinary story. She's got 8 million people who view her videos on YouTube every month.
So I want to say that again. She's got 8 million people who view her videos every month.
Every month
on YouTube.
Yeah, and it's called the YouTube site. She is the second biggest baker on YouTube.
So it's on baking.
So it's on cupcakes.
Cupcake. Oh my God! All the women out there who think you can't make money in cakes.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, it's a sweet.
I'm going to get her on the show.
You must.
Ask her how does she do that.
Yeah. So she's a phenomenon, and I manage Elise as well, and her company is called her channel is called Cupcake Addiction.
Right. Okay.
And she's just an extraordinary woman, and she's had a little cupcake business in the Gold Coast. That's where she's from.
Yeah.
And she's got 2 kids. She just had a kid about 2 months ago.
She's a global phenomenon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, so her business has just skyrocketed, and it's because she produces really engaging content, and she translates it into 5 different languages, and her content appears on the carousel as well. Yeah. But that's an example of a brand under the umbrella of the carousel.
Yeah, right, okay. So I want to talk a little bit now, because, it's wonderful what you've built, and I love the Arianna Huffington story and all that stuff, but of course there's you don't just wake up one morning and decide, okay, I'm just going to launch this thing like the carousel. I mean, there is a lot of planning, there's strategy, and there's money involved.
Yes, that's right.
And I'm always looking to get to this area because I think, when we look at people who are successful, you've been really successful with this so far. But as you would know in your heart, it's not an overnight success. Nothing ever is.
No.
So tell me about the beginnings of it. Like, so you come up with this idea, you really want to do it, but there's capital involved in this.
That's right.
So how did you sort of get to the point of how did you make the decision around how to raise capital, or did you raise capital, things like that?
Yeah, I did raise capital, and it's not to design something like the carousel to be optimised on mobiles, and everything costs a lot. It takes longer than you think.
I know,
and everyone says it costs twice as much, and it's really true.
Yeah.
And even the process, if you've never experienced that process of actually getting capital investment, is I would have to say, it's an arduous process, and if
stressful.
It's quite stressful, and if you put your own money in, and often people who are willing to invest money into companies, they're looking for people who've got skin in the game, who put their own money in. So I started off by putting our own money in.
Yeah,
I put considerable amount of our own money in, and so to be honest, it's for me it's imperative that that it works and it's successful, because I've put everything into it. That's
you have
why
to make it work.
You have to make it work. So that's appealing to someone invested, because they know that I'm not going to easily let it slide.
Yeah.
But I was very fortunate, because my first investor that came on board with me was my mentor,
How long had that person been a mentor for you? Was it a long-standing relationship?
Yeah. Yes, and he had sold a business that had done quite well and very well, and wanted to impart his knowledge to me, and regularly got the update and helped and advised me, and then fortunate for me, he backed me, and actually what he said to me was that I love the idea of the carousel and what you've achieved so far, but what I'm doing is I'm backing you, and I'm putting my other investor said the same thing. Yeah. And so you can have investors that are strategic investors, and you can have a mentor style investor like I have.
And they can actually add something to it's not just money they bring expertise, which actually I've always said to people, sometimes when you are raising capital, that's probably the one you're looking for, because they can actually, even if they don't have expertise in your industry, they would have contacts, leverage, distribution, all these things that you don't think about.
That's right.
That can really change the game for you in your business. Yeah.
So, so basically, that's and that process takes a long time, and it might not. People who say that they're going to invest in the company might not go ahead and invest in the company. So, you have to take
it. You get on that emotional roller coaster. Then if we have money, we don't have money. That can be really hard.
So you have to prepare yourself for everything. And someone said to me who had. Was someone who invested a lot into different businesses, and he said you have to have a number of things going your way, and the elements that you need are you have to have a great idea, you have to have money to back you, you have to have good timing, and balls of steel, he said. And then
the hustle thing, the hustleometer,
and then he said, and you have to have one other element, and he said, and this is really crucial. He said, you have to be lucky. And so that's the ingredient that you just
don't know.
You don't know, and so you can have a great idea that the timing's really bad, and you're just unlucky. So and
that's a really good point to focus on, though, because sometimes people go. They know they've got a good idea, but actually they're not looking at the industry and where things are going, at the economy, at things that could just trip you up, but by no fault of your own. It's not that the idea wasn't great, it's the timing was wrong.
That's right.
Or the money. A classic one as well is, I've got this much money, I've got this great idea, and people don't realise that you need a buffer. Like you need a bit of, because it will cost 3 times the amount that you think.
Think about when like you're doing an extension on the house, and and it always, the builders are always there longer, and they always cost more than you got quoted necessarily.
And that's when it becomes very stressful.
And that can become very stressful. So you just have to go in all eyes wide open. And I suppose that's why there are not as many people prepared to be entrepreneurial, and I understand that statistics are there's less female entrepreneurs that are out there because maybe they're less risk takers. They're not risk takers as much.
There's less. I know there's women launching businesses globally, and for 2 decades this has actually been the case at faster rates than men. Very small numbers running big business.
That's right.
Like they're not making loads of money and women I speak to often say to me, oh, but I'm not in business for the money, I'm in it to serve. And I go, well, that's awesome, but it's okay to want to scale, leverage, and get bigger. And
it's okay to actually want your business to be a very profitable business. That's fine. That's why your investors are investing in putting
and that's why you're doing it as well, really.
That's
and
right,
to change, you want to give
to be able to do something
amazing.
You love and passionate about, but is fantastic to combine all of those things together. But you want to be judged by its success, and of course when you're looking at stories of entrepreneurs, the thing is you normally only hear about the people who are successful. You don't hear about the multitude of people. And I've had women ring me up who've asked for support for their businesses on the carousel, and we've done stuff with them. Who's launched fashion lines, and they've really said to me, I need support, and we've given it.
That's a hard game as well.
And there are a lot of people that are trying and doing their mumpreneur thing where they've started up over the kitchen's table, and that's how the business has grown, and that's how most businesses, in a sense, grow because it's the idea around the table.
Kitchen table, yeah.
And where you're discussing the idea and you have that little gem, and then you but every step along the way is like a big achievement, because the odds are actually statistically stacked against you. So you are actually really, you need the support of others to help our business, which is why it's fantastic, this whole mentoring
Well, I was going to come back to that, actually, because I think that's the power of, asking someone to mentor you very early on, because you don't know in 10 years' time. No. That person could become the investor that you're looking for.
Well, that's right.
For younger people out there, like, it's always good to have a mentor or someone you can, as you say, support you somehow.
That's right. And there are different type of ways that people can support you. It can be just fantastic advice. And because, as in my case, my mentors have been very big influences, and they've been successful business people in their own right, and so they've been kind enough to impart that. And that becomes fantastic. Not everyone has that benefit, and in the same way, I get asked to mentor mentor, and it's sort of like I'm always really happy because. And I think people shouldn't be shy of reaching out to people, because usually people are very decent and they actually want to help.
Well, you always think, if somebody reaches out to you and actually says, I really admire you and I would love if you mentor me, who's going to say? They might say no, but it's nobody, because of time constraints, but anybody is going to be flattered by that.
That's right.
And honoured by that experience.
Yeah, that's right.
And they might say, look, I'm going to say no because I can't give it the energy and time, but I have somebody who I'm going to put you in touch with who I think is perfect. So he just opens doors.
Or they just basically say, it can be an ad hoc, or it can be a regular sit down and chat, and I think that's a really fantastic, change, that people are much more open to being mentors and mentoring. So I think that's great.
So tell me, launching a business like this, it's a big business. There's a lot of people on board. Yeah. Tell me about, I'm really interested to know, in the early days particularly, you don't wake up every day feeling powerful. Even when you've got, you've obviously got strong mindset and self-belief and all those things. But, I was asked this recently about my mindset, and I said, you don't wake up every day feeling like that. Some days you feel fearful, anxiety-driven, that things aren't going to work out. What have you done to sort of get through those days that we all have?
Yeah, I think, look, everyone, you don't always have that bounce out of bed with a spring in your step, and,
I'm going to be a success.
Yes, that's right. So, I think I think actually having a very balanced life helps, because, I would be lying if I didn't say that I was working 24/7 around the clock.
I say that,
I am working. It's very hard to sort of put down, but we're at a very early stage of the business, and so you'd expect a bit of hard work, and I would never mind a bit of hard work. But I still have balance. I still go for a walk, and I row, I've joined a rowing club down, and which is a beautiful thing to be on the water at 6 a.m. and
it's an early morning thing as well, which
very
is good
early for me, and I think having sort of a sport and being able to have things that give you a bit of balance and a family life. And I take my kids to rugby on the weekend. There are just, we always sit around the table and have half-hour chat after dinner finishes. It's just like we sit and, I have a strong family. And I think things like there are certain things that help, because that what's the worst that can happen when and I've always in my life been that person that sticks their head above the parapet and goes for it. Always, that's my nature, and I've always forged ahead and then
find the path,
and just thought, I can do that. I've always had I can do that. Television, I can do that.
I'm like that too. I think you have to have a bit of that as a gumption sort of thing.
That's right. And
she can do what I can do.
Yeah, she can do that. I can do that. And why? And then the life's more fun, isn't it? And I think that if you you've got big ideas, then it's it's nothing but hugely exciting to have an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I've been really fortunate. I've got a great team. I've got when it became public, and there was some newspaper articles saying that I'd pulled together all these magazine editors and that I was setting up something called the Carousel. I had calls from all over the place, and one of them was from my managing editor, who'd be my website editor at Women's Weekly, and that's Yvette LeGroux. And she called me and said, I'm in Bali, but I'd come back in a shot and I'd love to work with you. And the same with, so she did, and she's my managing editor. And then I've got Paula Crawford, who rang me up from Channel 7, and I worked with her at Channel 7 and said, I'm in, count me in,
Yeah.
So that's how the team grew. And a lot of people that are part of the team I have worked with before. So
I want to talk about this idea of team, actually, because another thing I think a lot of, particularly female, like all around the world, women in business, female entrepreneurs, they're struggling to let go of the control and to have a team.
Yes.
So we have a lot of one-woman bands out there trying to do everything.
Yeah.
They're trying to run a business, and they're trying to do all their social media and do all their emailing and respond
control
to
freaks as well, that they can't
and they say to
allow
me,
anyone else to do anything because no one can do it as well as them.
As well as they can. And I've had this conversation recently, actually, with a few people in that situation, and I've gone, look, there are virtual assistants that you can hire offshore that are, they're only dying to work for your business.
That's
and
right.
I've gotten a couple of responses of people saying, I just don't think I could farm much out to them, though. And I'm thinking, you're just not willing to let go and to train somebody.
That's
so
right.
what would be your view on, can you grow a big business without a team? Without letting go?
Yeah, look, I don't think so is the answer.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Because you just can't do it all on your own, you know. And you need to be able to rely on a great team to be able to help you. And everyone's got different strengths as well, you know, there
you
might
need a
be
carousel of a team.
That's
with,
right.
Like, all the people different strengths to you.
That's right. You need, and everyone does have, that they want to actually all evolve as well in what they're doing. So they're not they don't just want to do the things that they're strong at. They want to actually learn and new different things and grow.
Yeah.
And so I think as a team, as a manager of a team, you've got to allow them that, because otherwise where's their
bored.
Personal growth in the company, and they're going to get bored and
resentful because they'll be uninspired.
That's right. But throw someone a challenge and let them rise to the challenge, and
let them do it.
Have a sense of achievement.
So
I think that's the key, and it's basically like some of the editors, they were editors before they were TV presenters, and now they're like Nadell Stullier is a great example. She's the editor of Clio, and Lizzie Wankett and Madison. A lot of them had done a lot of TV for their roles as editors, but now they're doing a lot more different type of styling and different type of video content than they've done before. And
new area for them.
It's a new area for them, which is exciting.
It energizes them a bit again.
Absolutely.
It brings your energy back.
Yeah, that's right.
So tell me, what is the big vision? What is the sort of, the future? What does the future hold for you, for the carousel, and for your big vision? What's the...
Well, I mean, we're tracking really well at the moment, and growing and more and sort of building a brand, from scratch. But although I have to say that our social media reach is about 850,000, and that's because the people who are under the umbrella of the carousel are all not new brands; they're all established brands. But really, the vision is to actually we're planning to launch in Asia, and and really there's a cookie cutter model there with the carousel, that you can have other editors in their fields in different countries across.
Of course, yes. It's like the structure, the thing is the same, but the people feeding into each of the areas is
so we can have experts. When we take it to Singapore, we can have experts in food, fashion, and the different pillars on the carousel, and then the content can be shared. So that's the
I love that concept of, like, I'm always talking about scaling and leveraging. I mean, they're the two things.
It's very scalable.
To create a business that is scalable and that you can leverage that then, and that's how you create. That's a powerhouse asset. That's what you create.
That's right. And there's really there's a need out there for an umbrella lifestyle, company such as the Carousel that that has tentacles that reaches out across different boundaries and territories, and so if you have a company like Procter & Gamble or some of these multinational companies, they're looking, we've been talking to Disney, they're looking for companies that they can actually feed content to or seed content out to that lives around the world. And of course
you bring in the whole, we talked about this off air, I know, this whole bringing the advertisers in and trying to create a model where it works for the people viewing the content, the consumer, and for advertisers in a nice way.
That's right, branded content, or native content, which is massively growing. But the great thing with the digital assets is that you can actually geotag, so you can have advertising that's specific for for Australia. That's different. We run ads that are pre-roll ads on some of our video content that's just uniquely for New Zealand, and you wouldn't see here in Australia. And the same you can do for markets overseas.
Yeah, that's
so
fantastic.
You're just not even aware of it, but that's what's happening. It's just geotagged. Because it wouldn't be, otherwise the ads wouldn't be relevant.
They wouldn't be relevant, Look, Robyn, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on
lovely.
the show.
Thank
I'm
you
so
very
fascinated
much,
by
lovely
this
to talk to you.
business model that's coming, and I can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
Thank you
beautiful.
very much. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining again for another week. Remember, you can catch me later this week on my podcast, where I'll be giving you my key takeouts from my chat today with Robyn, and you can get that on my website at energizewealth.com. And I'll see you next week for more Feminine Wealth TV.